I think it's very important when you work in the way that we are, sort of doing sort of hand-producing work, that I think the material you use is environmentally sort of sensitive. Timber lasts a long time, so we're going to try and produce something that will be around for generations. So I think we have a responsibility there to try and use what we can and use it locally, really. There's a great resource of wood in Scotland which is currently underused. And a lot of people, a lot of sort of furniture makers as well, will still buy in timber from all around the world. But I think it's a great shame. So I'm a great believer in sort of using what we can locally. My father used to have a workshop just round the back of the house. We were always making something. It was always very much part of what I did as a child. After I got my degree, I sort of moved down to London and and worked as a commercial product designer for about the next 6 years, producing sort of own brand products. We sort of designed lots of potties and pushchairs and sort of children's toys, really. After doing that for quite a few years, I went out to Africa to do some voluntary work. Even then, that was back in the 80s, really. There was a lot of plastic waste lying around, plastic bottles and things, even in the sort of beautiful parts of Africa, really. And it made me sort of question that sort of the use of plastic, and especially the use of single-use plastic. When I came back from that, I was thinking that there'd be a better way to work, really, perhaps not in plastics. So I then sort of started looking around and sort of got involved with wood. So for the last few years, I hadn't really made anything, or made much really, but it kind of rekindled that, the workshop relationship that I had, from years gone by with my father, the workshop out the back. And I realised how much I liked actually making things, really. So that kind of rekindled the sort of connection with wood and the love of craft, and using those skills was something that I really became passionate about. I mean, this workshop here in Burnside, Aberfeldy was actually created when the street was built, which was around about the late 70s, early 80s. I like the historical resonance of having this place which has been used for wood ever since it was created over 130, 40 years ago, really. The model of the ownership of our wood, where it's sort of owned by 5 families, really, is quite unusual in Scotland, particularly, where most of the land is owned by big estates. If you have groups of people who have certain interests or certain things, you can actually generate an income from the bit of wood rather than it just being a sort of drain. So I take timber out of the wood, but we have a license to collect bluebell seed, so we can sell bluebell seed from the wood. We also sell acorns from the wood. And we've always been looking at ways of, getting a sort of value out of the woodland, and just so you can say that, we have this bit of woodland, but we actually actively manage this woodland, and by actively managing the woodland, you can get so much more out of it, both for us individually, but for the woodland, and also for the wider community. Part of the great thing I think is actually learning more about it, understanding the sort of cycles of the wood, the cycles of the seasons, what comes up when, what plants are where and why they're there. So quite often when we design something, I'll be looking to try and create something that has a sort of, that is special to the person. So the first stage is really to sort of understand and to do research into what they might be wanting. We do a lot of model making to sort of try and create little 3-dimensional sort of models. That's just a concept, we'll then draw it up, get all the dimensions correct, work out how it's going to be made. Once a design sort of has been agreed, really, we'll then go into the timber selection, really, and the timber comes in as just slices of trees. We have quite a big workshop here, which is quite well equipped now, really, and we have a lot of big machines which cut the timber up, plane it, slice it, shape it, sand it. Steam bending, it's when you have if you think of a tree as a bundle of straws, but the straws are linked by lignum, which is a sort of glue that sort of binds the tree together, and only in certain types of trees it works. So the idea of steam bending is when you put the steam up through the tubes, it softens that lignum holding the straws together. For a short period of time, you can actually bend it like you can get a bundle of straws and you can bend them. If you go very quickly, you'll snap them, but if you sort of ease them over a former or ease them gently, you'll get the fibres to slide over each other, and then when when it cools down, it'll kind of lock into that position. We have quite a traditional layout of a workshop. Upstairs is where all the sort of hand-cut joint work's done and where the things are actually gradually put together and finished. To me, it's very important that people enjoy the link between the hands and the head. And I think that is really, really very important. So I think that's the most important thing, I think, that we can try and convey to people, the importance of using one's hands in one's daily work. I think being sustainable in the current climate is just, I think everybody should really take it on board. Because we do use a natural product, that to me it's so vital really that we look after the raw source of what we're using. It's important that we do manage our landscape, both for the good of it, but also for the good of ourselves. But I think that whole point about sort of, if you look after the woodland and you look after what we use, then it just makes perfect sense. And I can't see why people wouldn't really.